loaded. 2 out. Hard hitting to right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Poppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Anything possible.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Kicking with Kruse. I am your host, Ben Kruse. Hope you guys are having a great start to your week. It is Monday, March 18th. It is the official week of March Madness, so it's a really exciting week to look forward to. Obviously, free agency for NFL pretty much has come to a conclusion, despite the fact that there's still some signings that have been transpiring at least the last a couple days. There are obviously some signings today. We got baseball next week, specifically. Of course, opening day for the Soul Series actually begins in the next couple of days. So we'll kind of talk about some of the latest stuff. And the reason why I put out the breaking news segment is due to baseball, that one of the top pitchers on the market from Scott Boris's camp, which pretty much those two guys took forever to sign. One of them officially signed tonight. So we will get into that overall player. We'll get into the overall team he went to and get our latest reactions. We'll try to see specifically, we get some of our co-hosts for tonight. We'll see specifically if James will come on as well as Isaiah Leon. But if not, I can go solo myself for most of this show. That's not a problem on my end. So, and obviously March Madness. We'll get into some of the stuff later on during the program. All the fun stuff, specifically in terms of the teams to watch out for. I will get into my overall Sweet 16, my Elite 8, my Final 4, and my championship matchup. So we'll get all into that fun stuff. But before we get into all that fun stuff, really quickly for everybody that has decided to join into my program for tonight, down the ticker button below, make sure to follow us on MI6 and the IM6 network on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Also, check out my Twitter at BenCruz144, where I put out essentially sports content on the daily, Boston sports, just sports in general. So make sure to obviously tune into that fun stuff as well too on my Twitter. And obviously, in terms of outside of my show, make sure to join into other shows on our network, Sports Weekly. Obviously, with baseball coming up, we're going to do Batter Up. Obviously all that fun jazz. Make sure to tune in all the socials to stay up to date on all the latest stuff on our end. All right, without further ado, let's get started, and let's get started off with the overall bang. That yes, finally we got some transaction headway on the baseball front. That the San Francisco Giants and Blake Snell have agreed on a 2-year, $62 million deal contract. And I mean, it's about damn time that he finally signs. With all the latest rumors for the last several weeks, we got the season next week. So, of course, he's going to be missing time already as it is. And just when you look at it specifically on the contract, 2-year, $62 million, that includes an opt-out after the first year. So essentially speaking, if he pitches well this year and he doesn't decide to stay for that next year after this following season, he could opt out of it and obviously test the market. But that's the big breaking news to kind of kick off our show for tonight. Is Blake Snell signs with the Giants. We don't know specifically how he's going to be right away, essentially, but this guy last year, he was a Cy Young Award winner with the San Diego Padres. Just taking a look at quickly some of his stats last year. as a whole. I mean, he was 14-9, wins loss specifically. He had a 2.25 ERA, 234 strikeouts, and a 1.19 WHIP. I mean, pretty much some of his best stuff that he's had in the years past. And yeah, just the Giants as a whole. You just look at it overall outside of the Blake Snell signing. They got one of the other Scott Boras guys off the market to their team, and that was third baseman Matt Chapman. And obviously, the Giants now, obviously, they're in a very tough division in the NL West. We have the likes of the Los Angeles Dodgers, who, of course, went on a full-on spending spree to the max. When you get guys like Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, that'll do it for you. But the Giants really now, when you have Snell now with that rotation, you put him on top with Logan Webb. You obviously added a power bat in Jorge Soler. You got one of the top guys from the Japanese market, and that was Jun-Hoo Lee, who's going to be a really solid outfielder for them. They also added Jordan Hicks, who's a pretty good bullpen piece, although they're trying to potentially have him as like a back-end starter. I'm not sure specifically how that's going to work out, but that Giants team, man, I mean, that looks – and then obviously on my show several weeks ago, you can check out in terms of me, James, and Isaiah had our early MLB predictions. Isaiah, one of my co-hosts, was mentioning if the Giants specifically go out and get a guy like a Matt Chapman or a Blake Snell, things for that team could drastically change in terms of how we kind of look at them. And now specifically, if you told me that the Giants would have Blake Snell and Logan Webb at that top end of that starting rotation, I'll be feeling pretty good if you're an overall San Francisco Giants fan. So, yeah, just overall, congratulations to the Giants. I mean, it's a pretty solid deal. He got paid. Obviously, it's probably a little bit less than probably he was looking for, but the fact that he waited so long, and obviously, Boris being his agent, that's obviously going to do it to you. But that's the overall big news. Like I mentioned, to kick off the show for tonight is that Blake Snell has officially signed a 2-year, $62 million deal at the one-up with the San Francisco Giants. Now, let's stick around now still with the baseball talk, and there still is one guy left on the market, and that is Jordan Montgomery. Monty specifically, the last that we've talked about here on the program is he was looking for a 6-7 year type deal, which I think to me, and I like Jordan Montgomery. As a Sox fan myself, and I'll talk about my team report in a little bit, he specifically is asking just for way too much. He's a very good pitcher. And, of course, last year was a big part to these Texas Rangers World Series run. One of their staples, of course, he went into Houston a couple times in the ALCS, which is an absolute hard place to pitch, with it being a hitter's ballpark then more than not. And he was absolutely stellar. He went into Tropicana Field for the wild card, game 2, I believe, or game 1. It was one of those, and he absolutely shoved. So I know for a fact that he wants to get paid. I understand that. But you essentially are hurting your value more and more the more you wait at this point in time, because there's not much left until the season starts. And I know that, people are throwing side sessions. Look at a guy like Michael Lorenzen, who's still out there in the market. He threw a side session today, according to our Athletics' Ken Rosenthal, who put out a tweet about it today. But still, there's so much that you can do. You have to be able to face some live, spring training reps. And I know that people say, well, spring training doesn't really matter specifically in terms of results. Well, of course it doesn't matter, but of course it matters for guys specifically to get their work in. And, for a guy like Jordan Montgomery, he's going to have to figure out something right now in terms of kind of settling maybe for a little bit less than probably what he's looking for. Because, if he wants to be on the team specifically, time is now to make that happen. So now, in terms of some teams that I can see Jordan Montgomery going to, one, I could see him going to the Houston Astros, because the Astros were a team that was interested in Blake Snell. Right now, the Astros kind of have some pitching concerns. Jose Urquidy is currently nursing an injury. I think Justin Verlander is still battling an injury right now. So, I think specifically the Astros are a team to watch out for. The Rangers, I don't see it likely. Could I see it happen? Possibly. Possibly a renewal could be in the works for Jordan Montgomery. I don't see it because Chris John, of course, their general manager, has spoken the last couple of weeks that there doesn't seem like a reunion that's going to be in play. Obviously, my Red Sox, and I essentially feel like I'm a broken record saying this. His wife is essentially in Boston right now. He's right. She's in there right now. She's been essentially in Boston all off season. Now, the thing about Montgomery right now is him with the Red Sox, I feel like would have already happened by now. If they want to get something done, and he's been pitching this offseason in your city with a team that has a owner that is unwilling to spend at all. And for him to looking at a mid to long term type deal, unfortunately, with my Red Sox, I don't see it happening. I don't. Because, like I said, I felt like it probably would have already happened by now. But we'll see. A team to watch out for, two teams. The Cubs. I think the Cubs feel like they might have something left up in their sleeve. And I know the NL Central is kind of a division this year that's kind of up for grabs. You look at the Brewers, right? They moved on from Corbin Burns to the Orioles. Unfortunately, Devin Williams, their closer, their stud closer, is going to be out for a little bit. You look at the Reds. The Reds obviously have a solid young core. Some guys like Elly De La Cruz, Spencer Steer. They got some guys there. But I still think there's not enough there to convince me they're probably going to be at the top in the division. Even though the division isn't great. The Pirates, still too young. They got, obviously, Brian Reynolds. Seems like O'Neal Cruz is going to be bound to have a big year this year for them, which I'd be happy for. But they just don't have consistent, talent. Now, specifically on the starting end, outside of guys like Mitch Keller. And then you look at, the Cardinals potentially. I don't know. I'm hopeful. You look at their team last year, right? They were one of the worst teams in that division. I feel like the Cardinals are bound to have a jump this year, but it comes down to, guys stepping up. Obviously, Paul Goldschmidt is a free agent after this year, so I think he's going to have a very good year for them. Nolan Arenado, you know essentially what you're going to get out of him. But the pitching, right? They added guys specifically from the free agent market and pitching, but it's like, are these guys specific that they got pitching-wise? You look at Sonny Gray, who unfortunately now is banged up, so we don't know specifically he's going to be ready for the season. You added Lance Lynn, who was good with the White Sox a couple years back, but he's not the same guy he once was. He even went to the Dodgers last year, who seemed to be kind of a team that kind of fixes a lot of pitching, and he still wasn't great. And then you also have Kyle Gibson, who I think could be all right. Right, he could probably just be a guy that could give you innings. Steven Matz, up and down, inconsistent. So it's like there's really not a team in that NL Central to me that is like that's the team. There's just so many questions with that division. So the reason why I put Montgomery with the Cubs is I think specifically the Cubs, I don't know, will overspend for him, but I could see the Cubs and Jed Hoyer giving him a 4 or 5 year deal with high AVs. I could see that happening. That's hopefully what I wish the Red Sox would do, because there's somebody I give credit to that responded on something about Twitter when I saw specifically the initial report of him looking for a 6, 7 year deal, because it's absolutely outrageous. Jordan Montgomery is 31 years old. If he's looking for a 7-year type deal at 31 years old, there is a specific reason why he's still out there. Because no team wants to spend a high contract with high AAVs, even though it's Jordan Montgomery's caliber, a long-term deal like that. So I think what's going to happen, and somebody told me this a couple weeks ago when like I said, when I responded to the initial report, is JD Martinez was a Scott Boras client. He signed in 2018 with the Red Sox. He was looking for a high contract, and it dropped from like 6-7 years down to like 4 to 5 years. That's, I think, a pretty fair type of range that Jordan Montgomery should be in. 4 to 5 years, high AAVs. Look at Blake Snell, right? Blake Snell for the last couple weeks for a long period of time wanted a high contract, right? But today, as we saw the contract, he kind of went to an overall contract that I think the last couple weeks he kind of started to look at, where he was starting to be open to a short-term deal, which it should have happened a long time ago. But the reason why he wanted a long-term deal is because he wanted to get paid. Right? He wanted to get paid. He wanted to find a team specifically that might have suited him. But you see specifically like in the Snell teams today, that obviously the report after from Bob Nightingale, of course, to put the teams out after he signed with the Giants tonight. The Yankees were a team that was essentially pursued on him. And they put a pretty solid bid on Blake Snell, but essentially they took the bid out and they weren't suing him anymore yesterday, which then essentially turned from. I thought the Angels were going to be kind of the team to watch out for Snell because I thought that Snell specifically, and he's staying the West Coast, but I think that he didn't want to be in the East Coast all along. I just didn't see him specifically like that. Montgomery, on the other hand, I think specifically he could be pretty much open to really any destination. That essentially, I think for me specifically, he wants to go to a place that can win now, or at least have a chance to contend. Which I think specifically why, unfortunately, it takes my Red Sox out of consideration. Even though that his wife is right now currently residing in Boston, he's been working out at BC. Like I said, I feel like it have already happened. I feel like it have already happened by now at this point in time. But we'll have to see. I expect specifically, with now Blake Snell off the board, that Jordan Montgomery this week, the talks are going to now pick up on him. Because I think that for him specifically, he is going to have to budge a little bit. He's not essentially going to get what he wants to get. So, unless essentially, like I said right now, Blake Snell's not probably going to be ready to pitch right around opening day because they waited so long. Jordan Montgomery, same thing. He's not going to be ready to pitch whoever he's going to be pitching for right from next week, which is opening day. At best, he's probably, find a team maybe mid-April, but at least late April, I think, specifically. And obviously opening day is next week, which is late March. So realistically, for a guy like Blake Snell and a guy like a Jordan Montgomery, they're great pitchers. And a team specifically that would want to get him, good for you. You might have to wait at least a good month until things kind of shape out. Two other guys specifically to watch out for on the market right now. Michael Lorenzen, like I mentioned earlier, he was having a throwing session today. And like I said, I could see a lot of teams have an interest in Michael Lorenzen. I could see the Yankees. I could see the Red Sox. I wouldn't be surprised if the Phillies had a reunion because I think Lorenzen could be like a number 3-4 type of guy. He's not going to obviously cost as much as a guy like a Jordan Montgomery. Would it be opposed to potentially like the Mets? The Mets, I feel like, even though they've had a pretty solid spring overall with their pitching, I think that Lorenzen would be a pretty solid piece for them. But yeah, I don't know specifically what Lorenzen is going to be asking for. I think he wants essentially a couple years. Mike Clevenger's still out there on the board. He's just kind of like that last resort for a team. I think the Reds would be a perfect fit for Clevenger for some odd reason. But it sounds like from Heyman and Nightingale that he's only looking for like a 1-year type of thing. And he might specifically be open to going back to the White Sox because we also have to talk about a trade that happened a couple days ago involving Dylan Cease, which we'll talk about. So yeah, I mean, there's been a little bit of talk lately on the baseball front, which is good. Obviously, right before opening day, it's been very up and down per se, but a lot of the news and stuff like that, just like finally Blake Snell's off the board. Hopefully, Monty can start picking up a little bit. But like I said, he's 31 years old. For him to ask a long-term type deal, it's probably not going to be in the cards for him. He's probably going to have to take something within 4 to 5 years, high AAV, and go walk with it and go from there. Maybe even ask for some opt-outs in it. We'll see, but time will tell. The last big name specifically on the hitting front is JD Martinez. That's a shocker. JD, from our Red Sox in 2018 was arguably one of the best pitchers. I said pitcher, sorry, one of the best hitters. My apology on that team. So, yeah, that's obviously a massive shock. I think the Mets will probably be like the biggest team to watch out for JD Martinez. He could give them some insurance in that lineup, right behind a guy like Pete Alonso, who of course is going to be free agent this offseason. Team like the Marlins, a team that might need some help. The Angels might need some batting help. So those are a couple of teams to look out for on Martinez. But yeah, that's kind of the latest right now with the free agent front. And like I said, we'll kind of update you during the week specifically on where things kind of head with a lot of the rest of the guys outside of Blake Snell. Of course, like I mentioned, he's off to the San Francisco Giants on a 2-year, $62 million deal with one opt-out in that deal. So, like I mentioned, we also have to talk about in the MLB front, Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease, of course, was a pitcher of the White Sox, who for the last couple weeks up to a month, even last year, there was talk specifically that he might have been traded. Trade never happened. I remember the Orioles are kind of a team that could have been potentially looking at him, potentially get traded for. And for a while, people were asking about Cease. A lot of teams were outside the Orioles. The Yankees obviously were checking on him because, of course, we got to talk about some injuries, some key ones. Of course, Garrett Cole. Yes, of course, the Yankees. There's obviously some news about that, along with Aaron Judge. But Dylan Cease, several days ago, according to multiple reports, went to the San Diego Padres. Now, the Padres, of course, gave up several prospects over to the White Sox. The biggest one that the White Sox got was Drew Thorpe. Drew Thorpe was one of the prospects actually in the Juan Soto deal, the trade this offseason with the Yankees and the Padres. So he's been kind of moved around a couple times, this offseason specifically. But Dylan Cease, of course, with the Padres, I think that really strengthens their overall rotation. They have now your Darvish. They have a couple other guys specifically, but now after losing Snow, Cease could kind of come in, kind of give them, I guess, kind of similar production in a way. Of course, one's a righty, one's a lefty, but Cease last year, just looking at his overall stats, right? I mean, it still wasn't that bad. I mean, he was 7-9, so it obviously would look great kind of from a, perspective of that, but he had a 1.42 whip, a 4.58 ERA, which obviously isn't great, but I still think that Cease is going to be a solid pitcher for them. And yeah, I just think that there's going to be still the stuff there, for that Padres team. Of course, they also have Joe Musgrove in that rotation. So you look at the NL West right now. I mean, of course, the Dodgers, of course, I think are going to be number one in that division. Unless crazy things happen, right? You never know. Then you kind of have to look at the three teams right now that have kind of made some really impactful moves. You first obviously have the Padres, of course. We're talking right now about Dylan Cease, and he could probably be essentially an ace alongside a guy like you, Darvish, who's been a very good pitcher the last couple of years, and it's been a really good pitcher in his overall career, even going back to his Texas days. The Padres still have a lot of good offensive talent, of course, with Machado and Tatis Jr., Bogarts, Cronenworth. They got some guys there that could definitely swing it. So yeah, I mean, just the overall division, of course. Now we have Isaiah Leon. Welcome, Isaiah, to the program. But yeah, I just that NL West now, it's going to be really up for grabs, at least after I would say kind of the Dodgers specifically because I feel like the Diamondbacks, and I was kind of thinking about them as the number 2 in our earlier predictions, but I also feel like with the Giants and the Padres making some of these impact and moves on the pitching front, on the top of that pitching front, you kind of have to think about it and be like, maybe that one of those teams kind of overtakes as that number 2 slot right behind the Dodgers. So obviously, Isaiah, since we have it right now, and Isaiah, like I mentioned, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. We're obviously kind of mentioned already the Blake Snell signing that happened today, so I can obviously ask you how you felt about that. And then, of course, right now we're kind of talking about Dylan Cease, who the last couple of days was traded to the San Diego Padres, and that trade with the White Sox. So what's your overall reactions to both of those kind of so far? And then, of course, we're going to kind of talk about some news in the baseball front. But how are you doing, my friend? It's obviously going to be a busy week with a lot of stuff, and I hopefully have a great week at spring training over in Arizona. I'm looking forward to obviously all your fun stuff down there.
Yeah, Ben, I appreciate it. Yeah, good to be on tonight. Got off work a little bit later than I would like, but here I am. But yeah, I'm going to Arizona starting tomorrow. Will be my first time in Phoenix. I've never been to the state of Arizona. Have always wanted to go, but have never been able to make it before. So that should be very, very exciting. I'm looking forward to so my plan is I'm going to the Rangers Reds game, I think on Thursday. I'm trying to hit the Cubs Diamondbacks game at Sloan Park, which is like Wrigley Field 2.0 down there in Arizona. And then that's tomorrow night. And then on Wednesday, I'm trying to go to the Rangers and Reds and maybe hit up Giants and Angels if I have some time afterwards. If not, then my plan is to go to see my guy Devin Booker and the Suns play the 76ers on Wednesday night. That should be a fun game. Sixers and Suns, both teams are potential NBA Finals contenders. And then you have on Thursday, my flight leaves Arizona at 5 p.m. So I'm trying to hit up one more game before I leave, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun. Looking forward to seeing all the players, watching a lot of baseball. I haven't watched a lot of spring training this spring training. So for me, like I'm viewing this trip as kind of like an intro to the season. Like this is like where I get my mind and body ready to go for the baseball season. So I'm looking forward to it. Hope to get a lot of autographs and photos. And I'll definitely be doing some reports down there from Arizona about the Cubs, the Reds, the Rangers, and some of the other teams that I do in fact visit. And I might even do a special report about the Phoenix Suns because I'm going to be going to their game against the Sixers. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, man, crazy day in sports, man. Blake Snell finally signed, as you mentioned, Ben. It's about time that he signed. It's been forever, man. And the season starts in a couple of weeks. I mean, we have baseball.
We got the Soul Series this week. Yeah,
that's right. We have
Laura
Dodgers.
Must be excited.
Yeah, we have Dodgers and Padres starting up on the 20th, so that's in a couple of days. So I can't wait, man. I'm excited for baseball. I know my trip to Arizona, it's going to probably get me very, very excited and in that baseball mode. So I'm looking forward to it. And don't forget, we also have March Madness starting tomorrow. I'm trying to fill out my bracket. I don't know if I'll be able to fill out my entire bracket here tonight, but yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to be filling out my bracket. And then we also NFL free agency came and went, and we had a lot of crazy moves. I know we did like 2 or 3 days of coverage with our free agent spectacle, so that was fun. But yeah, man, it's a great time to be a sports fan right now, and looking forward to where Jordan Montgomery and JD Martinez ending up now that Blake Snell has officially signed with the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, and obviously, like you mentioned, I talked a little bit in terms of how this impacts the Giants, but I was obviously mentioned before we came on about how Blake Snell. You were talking about how the Giants, right? If they got a guy like a Matt Chapman on their team, or they got like a Blake Snell, I was thinking at first that at least one of them would be a miracle. The fact that Scott Boras, the last two guys essentially out there on his market, went to both the Giants. I think you got to give a lot of credit to Farhan Zaidi for making those two moves, because if you told me specifically that they would put a lot of specific money, thank you for that specifically, a lot of money into both of those guys, I would have called you crazy. But I think that this is overly, and I still think the Dodgers are going to be the team to beat in the NL West. But I think that this Giants team sneakily this offseason, you have Blake Snell, of course, going to be topped with Logan Webb at the top of the rotation. You have Jung-Hoo Lee, who is one of the top guys on the market, Japanese market, that they got in the outfield. You brought in a power bat in Jorge Soler. You brought in a bullpen arm in Jordan Hicks. So sneakily, the Giants right now, to me, I think had a really good offseason. I think that you just finish it right off with a bang. It's not only sticking to the Padres, of course, are going to be in your division, but obviously too, the Dodgers be like, hey, like we're here, like we're not going to be pushing. We're not going to be getting pushed around. And I think the Giants, to me, like we mentioned, we did our early predictions on overall how we feel like the season's going to go. I think I now have the Giants at 2 right over the Diamondbacks because of the moves that have been impacting lately with them. So what do you feel about that? And then, of course, with the Dylan Cease to the Padres, now you look at, the teams kind of right behind the Dodgers. They're trying to kind of be moving up and trying to get some talent. And I give credit to both the Padres and the Giants for making these moves.
Ben, I'm going to start off my appearance on your show with a bang. I think that this makes the Giants World Series contenders. I think that it puts the Giants, honestly, on equal footing with the with the Dodgers, because the thing is, a lot of people are very high on the Dodgers. I'm not as high on the Dodgers as a lot of people are, because of the fact that there's a lot of question marks with the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani, he hasn't made it through a full season the last 2 years. There's questions about his durability. I mean, he's had injuries, elbow, oblique, hip, left and right. Like, I know he's just going to be a hitter this year, and that's going to be great. They have a formidable offense with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Ohtani as the top three. And then, you've got Teoscar Hernandez as well, with Miguel Vargas, Miguel Rojas, and also Chris Taylor, Austin Barnes, Will Smith. They're going to be a great offense. But what really makes me question the Dodgers is the fact that they have a lot of question marks health-wise. Also, not Blake Snell, but Tyler Glasnow. People don't forget that Tyler Glasnow last year, he had a decent year. He wasn't great. He had a decent year, and he's never been like a great pitcher. Like, there's been a couple years where he's been great, but he hasn't had those consistent years where he's just been great. And he's always had arm issues. He's had elbow problems. So I think like he's a big question mark. And I was telling James Gonzalez before I went on the air that there's a lot of question marks. Like Clayton Kershaw is hurt. Walker Buehler is coming off elbow surgery. We don't know how he's going to be. Guys coming off Tommy John, they're never, ever the same in that year one after the surgery as they were before the surgery. So, and it takes time for them to recover. Bobby Miller.
Speaking of James.
Right
Sorry,
there. Right on time. Right on. But Bobby Miller, he's a guy that first year was great. Now teams have film on him. We don't know how hitters are going to adjust to him. He might have a down year. Like, there's a lot of question marks with the Dodgers. And don't forget Yamamoto. Like, he's a great pitcher. He's got phenomenal stuff. But it takes time for guys that go from internationally to the major league, it takes time for them to adjust to major league hitters. And yeah, it takes time for hitters to adjust to him, but that transition is never seamless as easy as it is always. So I could see Yamamoto struggling. And Yamamoto, remember, he struggled in his first couple of starts in spring training. He had issues with his command. Guys were hitting him early and often. So the rotation is a question mark. There's a lot of question marks there. The offense, I think, will be absolutely lethal, but also the bullpen. I mean, who's going to be their closer? Blake Trinan? I don't really believe in him. Evan Phillips? I don't know. I mean, he's kind of unproven. Like, they don't have that proven closer in that bullpen. And Blake Trinan and Evan Phillips, like, they've been very inconsistent. Like, they've had good moments, they've had bad moments. So for me, the bullpen for the Dodgers is a big question mark. The rotation with the health issues, the transitioning from another country to the U.S., I think that's going to be a big issue for the Dodgers. And when you look at the Giants, people forget the Giants missed the playoffs last year by a couple of games, but they blew so many games because their bullpen was so damn bad. And they also blew so many games because they had a lot of issues fielding the ball. I think Bob Melvin will fix a lot of those problems with his presence alone. And I think that with these additions, you get Matt Chapman at third base. The defense along the infield is going to be great. It's going to be even better. Patrick Bailey behind the plate. You got Blake Snell. You got Logan Webb now. That's what the Giants needed. They needed a Logan Webb because they needed a guy that could be, after Logan Webb, that can be a dependable starter. And they needed this. They really did for the rotation because you had Logan Webb. Then the other guys were either inexperienced or they had question marks regarding health or they had never been a starter before. So you needed a guy like Blake Snell so everybody else can fall into those other roles that they were meant to be. So I love this move for the Giants. I think that Blake Snell puts the Giants on equal footing with the Dodgers. And I think that, it's going to be fun seeing Giants, Dodgers fight it out for the NL West. I would not be surprised, Ben and James, and you guys might call me extremely crazy and delusional for this, but I would not be shocked if the Giants surprised everybody and won that division because the Dodgers are going to have issues with chemistry. They're going to have to answer questions regarding health, regarding the transition and stuff like that. There's questions with the Dodgers. The Dodgers aren't a team with no questions, no issues whatsoever. There's a lot of questions with them. And the Giants, Bob Melvin, I think will fix some of those issues regarding the errors and regarding like bullpen management. That rotation with Webb, with Snell, they have a legit 1-2 punch. With Kyle Harrison as that third starter, he's a tantalizing ace. He's got great potential. And then, Ben, actually, the Giants are going to be starting Jordan Hicks. They're not going to be putting him in the bullpen. So,
yeah, he's going to be like a 4-5, I believe.
Yeah. So that's going to be very interesting. And then, I think bullpen-wise, I trust the Giants bullpen over the Dodgers just because Camilo Doval is a legit shutdown closer at that back end. You get to the ninth, you're not scoring or winning a game against the San Francisco Giants. And I do agree the Dodgers have a better lineup than Giants, but pitching-wise, I would take the Giants over the Dodgers. So this is a great move by the Giants. They needed it. Great move by Blake Snell going to a pitchers-friendly ballpark. I think he will be even better than he was last year, and he won the Cy Young last year. He pitching now in San Francisco. And I think out of every party involved, this is a massive L, Ben and James, for Scott Boras. That dude lost again. He's been asking for all these rich contracts for his clients, and for his clients to have to settle the way that they are settling this late in spring training. I mean, Scott Boras is eating L after L after L, and it looks like he lost his fastball, sadly, with all of these clients. And now I think Montgomery, Rangers are more likely now to be in on him with that low price Martinez. I mean, he might have to – it might be – like it was unfathomable at the beginning of the offseason. He might have to settle for like a 1-year, $10 million deal after asking for 1 year and $25 million. So it's crazy what these Boras clients are experiencing right now.
What about Cease-2, Isaiah? Do you feel like specifically that the Padres got better with this overall trade? Or do you feel like they're still the same that they were before they got him?
I think the Padres are a weird team. I mean, they traded Juan Soto, so you would think that they are going back to kind of retooling, and then they go out and get Dylan Cease, which is an indication that they're contending. So I don't know what the Padres are doing. They traded Soto away. That weakens their lineup. Yes, they got better pitching wise, but you still need to score in MLB, and yes, like Tatis is great, but he's a ticking time bomb. We don't know when he's going to have his off the field issues plague him. They trade away Trent Grisham. He was a really good top of the order type of guy. Jay Cronenworth, Ha-Sung Kim. I think they're okay. They're not great, but that rotation is definitely improved. But I think the Giants are more of a complete team though than the San Diego Padres. But also Ben and James. What's really interesting about Cease is that the reported the reported finalists for Dylan Cease were the Padres, who ultimately got him. I believe the Giants were one of them, and then the Texas Rangers were another one. I did not expect Texas whatsoever because I thought they were done spending. I thought they were not going to spend, that they were too broke to spend. But for Texas to be one of the finalists for Dylan Cease, and they were pushing hard for him, it shows me that what they were saying about them being done spending was a bold-faced lie, and that I could see Montgomery coming back to Texas because Texas knows they need pitching, especially in that first half of the season, without Scherzer, Malley, or DeGrom to compete with the Astros.
All right, we have James now on the program. James, welcome. Hope you're doing well. Of course, we got March Madness this week, so it should be a really exciting week. Of course, free agency is pretty much coming to a close at this point in time. And then, we have baseball in 10 days. So it's feeling pretty good, at least for me. And Isaiah, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. The allergies are killing me because of the rain here and the weather and all the dust or whatever with the Santa Anas. It's been a little weird lately. I'm working on this big project, and I'm happy to be here and give a little time.
All right, and in terms of your overreactions with Snell and Cease, were you pretty surprised about Snell going to the Giants in terms of the overall contract? What is now this kind of bone in terms of Jordan Montgomery's market? Of course, like we mentioned before, that he's looking for a long term. Does he kind of settle for something that's a little bit less? And then obviously the Blake Snell trade.
The trade?
Yeah, Blake Snell still in Cease getting traded to the Padres.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, so with Montgomery, I'll start there first. I think he's going to get a little less than Snell right now, but you're seeing these pitchers, have to settle for less. And the problem is for Boris was, hey, I want to get as much as I can for my client for as many years. Now you're getting into the season pretty much where you have to get what you're going to get, basically. And that's pretty much it. So I know Snell, got 2 years, 62. My guess, Montgomery, he'll get maybe a 3-year deal, maybe a little less, a little more than Snell, looking at the numbers, just because, just winning the World Series, you say maybe he was that more important than Snell in a way, even though Snell won the Cy Young last year from the National League. I don't think he'll do as well with the Giants like he did with San Diego. And it was only one year he did well with the Padres. Let's not forget that. His numbers were awful with San Diego up until last year. And then last year, when you really think about it, I watched a lot of the games last year and a lot of his starts. I always got left with his starts if I was going to Padre games. And before the pitch clock, he would take forever to pitch. They're so damn long. And you may know that from his time with Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Especially with runners on, he would shut down everything. I mean, it was really awful. Now you have the pitch clock, luckily, and that kind of helped him out. But I'm always worried about him balking a lot, which that does happen. And then he walks everyone. Mm-hmm. So even though you're in a pitcher's park, like Isaiah mentioned, and at night it's really hard to drive the ball out at Oracle Park, I'm weary though if he walks a lot of batters, he's not going to get bailed out this year like he did in San Diego. I always go back to the so many times that he either walked the bases loaded or he had maybe 2 men on and they somehow get a double play or get a great Fernando Tatis defensive play or Manny or Bogarts or Cronenworth. It's not like that with the Giants. I don't think they have enough Gold Glove talent like the San Diego Padres did to help them out as much. So that ERA is going to go up. And I don't believe it's enough to dethrone the Dodgers. I really don't. Even though they had a great offseason. You look at who they got. They got Lee from Japan, or I believe Japan or Korea. They're Korea, I'm sorry. The outfielder. And then you also have Matt Chapman, who had to sign for less. But and this would be my ending point with Snell, because I got to talk about that on Wednesday on Halos in the Infield, because I have to address the fact that Snell never wanted to leave the West Coast. Mm-hmm. And if he went to the Yankees, if he went to Boston, Philadelphia, he would hate it there. I mean, he doesn't do well with crowds. When he was in Tampa Bay, there wasn't much of a media presence there.
Right.
So he was kind of under radar. He didn't get the cheers or boos as much. So I feel like he's wanted to stay on the West Coast. We heard Giants before. I think a month ago, 2 months ago, they were in the running and they were out of it because they weren't signing anyone. Other from Lee, they weren't doing anything. And you felt like they still had a chance when you figured, okay, the Yankees were out of it. The Angels said they were, but I think when it came down to doing actual business, and it's been said right now that Ari Moreno shut down everything. We're not spending any more money at all. The payroll's down, I think $41 million from last year. And that could be Shohei's 30 and then others who have left. So you could just tell that Artie was never really in it, but they were trying to save face for the Angels and say, hey, we're interested, but really we're not going to buy. They were just window shopping the whole damn time, tricking everyone who's an Angel fan. But I never believed at one point. But I knew Blake Snell. He never wanted to leave the West Coast. Seattle didn't want him because they're not spending. They've done trading, but they haven't done any spending too much this year. So again, I think it gives the Giants a great chance at the wild card. I think we gotta see what Arizona does. In the Central, NL Central, I don't think we'll have a wild card out of there. You'll have a wild card out of the NL East, so that means you'll have 2 wild card spots, and it's a 3-team race between Arizona, San Diego, and San Francisco. It puts them kind of even with San Diego, because with Dylan Cease and that move, it's amazing how much minor league talent they've traded away. I saw a graphic the other day or this morning where they traded Soto for Soto and had to get rid of a lot of prospects. And then trading for Dylan Cease, they had to do the same, but not as much. And it's just that they say F them prospects. They just want to win now.
I like the Rams of baseball.
Yeah. And they keep having great minor league talent. It's like they still, like Jackson Merrill will be their center fielder. They turn him from an infielder to outfielder. So they still have great talent despite what they've traded away. But it's alarming too because of all the trades that they made. But this helps them out because what they got in the Juan Soto trade from New York, you have, Michael King, who should be just fine. But it was the other 2 pitchers in there you weren't really sure about. And then this Dylan Cease trade, they traded one of the Yankee pieces away, which I don't think they wanted to part ways with them, but he wasn't going to be ready yet. He was still single A, double A, so he wasn't going to be ready. So it's a good thing because they're trying to win now. Everybody's hoping that the Dodgers kind of disappoint, not be as good. Like Isaiah mentioned, it'll still be the bullpen. That would probably be their only flaw. And then, they just hope that the injuries doesn't hit them at the worst time. But it makes and all these moves we saw with the eve of the season starting on the 20th and 21st in South Korea, man, it makes the NL West so much better to watch than what we had maybe, a couple weeks ago when it was just talk about the Dodgers. Just
Right.
That's all you need to do. Now you're talking about everybody almost other from Colorado. So at least we know they'll be
The funny thing is with Colorado, that Chris Bryant was in an interview a couple days ago, and he's just like, "We're going to be shocking some people." I think he's just trying. No, he's not shocking anyone. Maybe besides him, obviously staying on the field. All right. Let's go quickly into some team reports. Within 10 days, guys, of opening day. Can you absolutely believe it? I'm excited. Isaiah, I'll start with you. I know that you, of course, were at the A's Park a couple days ago, of course, with your with your job coming up. Obviously, how's the vibes going over in Oakland right now with that team? Of course, in terms of the Phillies, 10 days away from opening day. Anything you want to watch there? So let's go to your team reports first before we go to James.
Guys. Oh, you guys got me?
Yeah.
It was, I don't know. I was like, my Wi-Fi was buffering for a sec, but
It's all good.
I don't know what it is about the majestic magic of the Oakland Coliseum, but I went, before I went to my A's training, I was like, yeah, the A's are probably going to suck this year. I'm probably going to have to turn my back to the field for most of the games and just watch. I mean, last year I was literally, like, during work, I would literally turn my back to the field and watch, because I was stationed near the lounge seats. I would just watch other baseball games, or I would watch, sometimes they had Seinfeld on TV, or they had The Office on TV most of the time. So I would either watch those shows instead of watching the A's game, because that's how putrid they were. I mean, you lose 100 games, but the worst part wasn't you losing 100. It was the fact that you were not competitive in half of those 100 losses that you were. I mean, the A's were getting blown out, Ben and James, like 8-1, like 5-0. If the other team scored 2 runs, we probably never had a chance because our offense, the beginning of the season, was so bad. We couldn't even. It was like it would be a scratch and claw for us to score even 1 run in the entire game. That's how putrid the A's offense was the entire season. But I don't know why. I don't know what it is about the Coliseum. But guys, I'm feeling very good about the A's this season. I mean, this team reminds me of 2018 when we were projected to lose 100 games, and then somehow, some way, with a rotation that had Edwin Jackson, Trevor Cahill, Brett Anderson as our starting pitchers, Mike Fiers as well, who we got later on in the year. But with that piece together rotation, and then a bunch of young guys like Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, and all those young guys, we somehow, some way made the playoffs as the last wild card. So, I'm looking at it like this. We have a lot of young guys, right? Zach Geloff's going to be a superstar in this league. Lawrence Butler's killing it in spring training. The A's have a lot of, rookies that not Seth Brown, but they have a lot of young guys that are doing pretty well in spring training. And then we have a lot of these veterans who we added to the mix. How about our JD Davis signing? He had so many offers and he picked the Oakland A's. Like, I felt like you guys remember when LeBron James went back home to Cleveland after he went to Miami?
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was a Cavs fan when LeBron James went home. When the A's signed JD Davis. Like, we never get people that pick the Oakland A's to sign. So we got him. He's definitely going to help our infield and our lineup. We've got Abraham Toro, who's a professional major league hitter. Our rotation doesn't have like minor leaguers after minor leaguers after minor leaguers like it was last year. Like we have guys like Ross Stripling, Alex Wood, in our rotation. I know our bullpen is like pieced together, but Mason Miller, who is one of our top young rookie pitchers, he was supposed to be a starter, but due to arm issues, they're going to put him in the bullpen to start, and he's supposed to be our closer. The guy can throw 100 to 105. Like, he's got lethal stuff, and I think he's definitely going to be in contention for one of the best closers in baseball with that type of stuff. And then setting him up is Trevor Gott, who I know he's not like the sexiest name, but like, I mean, the guy's been looking pretty good during spring training. So, you know, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about the A's. Like, I really think that the A's could shock people with that young talent, with Geloff's rise, and with the rotation the way it is, and with the bullpen. All the A's just need to do is they just got the young guys just got to take a step up, and I think they will. Like, I think Geloff's going to continue what he's doing. He is really looking like what Evan Carter was for the Rangers last year. And then I think guys like Lawrence Butler will take a step up. And then the veterans on the team, they just got to play the way that, they're capable of playing. And I think the A's will be fine. So I'm not going to go on the edge like I did on last Tuesday and say they'll win the division. But if you had to ask me right now, Ben and James, I'm very optimistic we will make the playoffs this season, because the AL, like, yes, it's loaded, but every year you got new teams that you're just like, where the heck did they come from? Like Arizona last year, or the Marlins. Like, there's all these teams. So I'm pretty optimistic that not only, James, are the A's going to get out of the cellar in the AL West, but I could see us making the playoffs this year, and being in contention with the Rangers and the Astros. And in terms of the Phillies, I mean, there's really nothing to report, because the Phillies, everybody's like healthy. Bryce Harper he left the game due to a back injury, but it was precautionary reasons. And I mean, the rotation's been solid. The lineup's been hitting. Like, the Phillies are going to be a good team this season. It's just about what they do in the postseason. So I can't wait to see what they do. And also, what's interesting, guys, is I don't think Rob Thompson has signed an extension yet. And that's interesting, because you never, ever see managers, especially on a contending team, go into a year where they can walk away after the season and be a free agent. Like, you never see that. So that just shows me, again, that Dave Dombrowski, that this is not the guy for long-term for the Phils, that he's just there as like a temporary placeholder until they find that guy. And I think if Rob Thompson and the Phillies get off to a tough start this year like they did last year, do not be surprised if Rob Thompson's on the chopping board in Philadelphia.
Isaiah, really quickly before I go to James, how much you want to bet about the A's getting into the playoffs? Because I feel, are we going to take any bids at this point in time within 10 days before the season of opening day? Because I think it's specific. Because I will say this, Isaiah. I will say this. I do think it can't be any worse than last year. That's a positive. It can't be any worse than last year. So, I mean, how much did they win last year? 50 games?
52?
They won 50 games last year. 50, yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I will say this. I'll probably go 65.
Hey.
I'll take that as a win. I'll take that as a win. How much are you thinking for wins?
If I had to go realistic, like not off my high of that the A's are going to make the playoffs, I probably would say 75, because I think we have major leaguers now. Last year we had so many minor leaguers just starting, and a lot of young talent. And you could see like they had growing pains, obviously. But I mean, Zach Geloff, he's a stud. He's continuing to bash. JD Davis, I think, will help the lineup a lot. Shea Langoliers as well, and then. The pitching, I think, will be a lot better, just because we don't have minor league pitchers pitching anymore. Like, our guys that shouldn't even be in in a major league rotation. Like, they should be in Japan or Korea pitching for our team. Like, that's what we had last year. We had our fifth starter last year was a guy named Drew Ruzinski, who pitched like one game and threw his back out, and he was out for the year after that. So, I think the A's will definitely be a lot better for sure.
Oh, definitely. Now Isaiah, I'll go to you, James. Let's go to your Angels because obviously 10 days away. You guys obviously don't have to get Blake Snell, which is of course I think is a relief for you. So you're probably feeling a lot better about that. But all right, James, I'll take it to you. With 10 days away for the season, how are you feeling?
I don't want the season to start, honestly. I just want the spring training to continue, so I can hear all these pundits talk about, oh, they're gonna be better, they're gonna try. Yeah, that's cool. I want to win, but I'm not going to. Yeah, it's like the final week of games here or there in spring training in Arizona.
Yep.
Before the Freeway Series against LA, that should be awkward.
James,
yeah.
James, I hate to interrupt you, but I'm actually I'm looking at the spring training schedule for the Cactus League, and if I don't go to the Suns Sixers game on Wednesday night, I may hit up Angels and Royals at Tempe Diablo Stadium. So if I don't go to the Suns game, I might go to that game. We'll see what happens, and I might give you your report on your Angels from Arizona.
Yeah, let's get a team report to James for that. That'd be awesome.
Hey.
Any guys I need to look out for to get autographs?
You know your boy.
You mean the franchise center fielder of the Angels, Mickey Moniak?
Mute him, dog. What was I gonna say? Yeah, dude, I'm willing to bet whatever that the A's won't make it, but this has to be money, and it's got to be real from Isaiah at the end of the season. So we gotta work on some. I would love to do that. I still have that thing where I feel like, hey, they're going to finish. The Oakland A's will finish. I don't think they'll finish better than the Angels, but it'll be a lot closer than what it was last year. I think it was like 18 games better than Oakland for fourth place. I think it'll be a little easier or a little less this year. And again, I mentioned, I guarantee there will be a time that Oakland is in fourth and the Angels are in last sometime this year. I guarantee that. Anyway, final games there in Arizona. Right now, the Angels are on an 18-inning non-extra base hit slump after today's game against Milwaukee. Yeah, they haven't had an extra base hit in 18 innings. They did that.
That's wild.
Something like that similar last year during the regular season. So I'm used to that. But just somewhere it feels like everybody else is hitting the ball out for power and doubles and all that. Right now, the Angels aren't doing that. And they've had the regular lineups. They've had, that rookie showcase going on as well. And that was a little fun watching the
cool.
guys play. One game, unfortunately, had to be canceled because of rain. I think it was against Colorado or Arizona. I think it was Colorado. I really wanted to see that. Some things I'm looking at. Let's see, the Carlos Estevez. I'll mention him because he's a closer, and I'm wondering again because he started off bad in spring last year. Had a great first half. He was an all-star. And then the second half, he just went back to the way he was in spring training. It's almost similar right now, the way he started spring last year. Now we'll see how he does in the first half. And again, with Snell, I just feel like they never wanted to sign him just to put their name out there. Cole Calhoun retired, I think Sunday, I want to say, the former Angel right fielder who was really good and not really useful later on. He just kept swinging for the fences. So it was an interesting week. Some observations I've had, and this is talking about the bullpen, and a couple of guys, one old, one young. So you guys remember Hunter Strickland? Yep. He's with the Angels, a non-roster invitee. It sucks because he's looked good sometimes, but then he has these really, really bad innings. He leaves the ball up too much, and he's getting hit for homers. I don't think he'll make the team, but despite the 27 innings he's pitched, Just see if maybe he'll stay on and they'll bring him up at some time if there's already injury issues with Robert Stevenson, so that's really unfortunate. And then Ben Joyce, you remember him?
Yep.
One of the draftees from that 2021 draft. He could throw 105, or he used to, but he's been consistent 100, 101. But the problem is his mental side of things. He mentally is having a hard time getting through innings, and that's been unfortunate to see. Like today, he got in a jam, but he got out of it. But or he wasn't having the speed's there and the arm is there, but the location of all of his pitches, like the off speed and the fastball, when he throws to lefties, it almost hits him on every pitch. I mean, it's really that bad for Joyce. Hopefully, someone can work with him. So those are two guys, and then the crowded outfield, like Isaiah mentioned, with Willie Calhoun, the former Yankee. He has the power, but he hasn't been really getting the playing time in that crowded outfield. That might hurt him not getting the roster. And Jake Marinzik, the former Astro, he has the most hits on the spring roster, but I don't know. They might, if he accepts it, go down to Salt Lake City, AAA. He'd be really good off the bench. Let's just say if there's an injury to someone like Mike Trout, I think if you bring up Marinzik, if he decides to join on, I think that would be a really good thing. Miguel Sano, hits for power, but the rest of the time he's just striking out or popping up.
Sounds about
yeah.
a lot with the Twins.
I was hoping he would have done better, but it's more of the same. He's just 50 pounds lighter. He plays a decent third base, so he'd be a good person coming off the bench. And then I think that's really it. But again, they're 11 and I want to say 13. Yeah, 11 and 12 on the spring. And, Brand Drury's doing well. He'll probably be the lead leaguer in a bunch of stuff on the team, I mean. Shawnee Wells hitting really well. Ward, Neto, and Moniak actually has the second most hits. But yeah, they're not going to get as many runs as last year for sure. It's going to be a pretty ugly year, and just happy that spring is almost over. But I just don't want the season to start because I know it's not going to be good. It's going to be one of those learning years that you hope that the young players will thrive, but that they're gonna fail. It's just how they come back. And I'm going to have to say that a lot of times this year, but it's true. It's guys learning on the job or they're trying to get better and under wash. I hope that happens.
The thing about the Red Sox going into my team is we get to face your Angels in April, James, as well as Isaiah. You get to face your A's, who you declared to be a playoff team before we start with 10 days happening. So we'll see how that goes. For the Red Sox right now, like I mentioned, 10 days away. Let's just kind of get through the rest of spring. I'm kind of in the same boat as James. Like, I'm not looking forward to them kind of already starting, but I think there are some things to look forward to at the same time. I think Tristan Costas has a lot of potential to really turn into an absolute monster in his second year. He was really, really good last year in his first full-on season. You're actually working on the A's Red Sox game. That's good to know, Isaiah. Make sure to say hi to Alex Core for me. I love that. But anyway, in terms of the pitching, though, our starting pitching, and this is obviously where I've talked about Jordan Montgomery. Of course, he's still out there. His wife's been residing in Boston. I would love it to happen. But, one, obviously, you wouldn't be ready for the start of the season. And two, it's just I feel like he wants to go to a team where he wants to win. And unfortunately, with the Sox, I just don't think right now that we're a team right now in a loaded division that's ready to win. But I do think guys like Brian Bayo, another year under him, of course, you got that massive extension, another, season to watch. He looked really good the other day against the Braves. Their starting lineup, he won a couple innings. Trevor Story, guys, of course, I really hope that we get a full season of Trevor Story because the last couple of years for him, it's either been injuries or just his inconsistent play. But so far this spring, he's looked like close. I wouldn't say full of Colorado's Trevor Story, but his offense for sure has looked a lot better. And And I thought specifically to me, I'm just like, if their offense at least can make some noise, it's going to be because of the pitching again, like last year. It's going to be the same old story like last year. So, I mean, I looked at the overall standings last year. The Red Sox won a total of 78 games. I feel like specifically right now, I'm probably looking at 79 to like 81. And I still think that 81 probably won't even get us in to like the third wild card spot because I just think there's just so many other better teams out there. But to kind of start off the season, because I don't know if we'll do a show obviously before the season starts, but with that being said, I'll kind of go through the kind of the earlier opponents to start the season. So the Red Sox actually, of course, with the way that our offseason went with, pretty underwhelming, we kind of get the awful part to start the schedule. We'll go West Coast to start the year. So East Coast to West Coast already. We got the Mariners to start the year, which should be pretty fun. The Mariners seem like a team that's going to be kind of in there in the race. Then we got Isaiah's Days. So I think that we have a chance there. We got them for 3 games. And then we got your Angels, James. I completely forgot. We have your Angels twice this month. So, I mean, and then obviously after that, we have our homestand. We have the Orioles, which I'm actually trying to go to the home opener right now, guys. I heard that they're going to be honoring the 2014 as well as Tim Wakefield is going to be honored at Fenway that day. So I might be considering getting myself up there for that game. I'll have to say about that. But yeah, 2 days away from the Soul Series, 10 days away from opening day, regardless of how my team's going to be doing, the fact that we can see some live, real baseball games to be played that count, I love it. I mean, it just means the world to me. So, all right, let's get into some football, guys, shall we? And obviously, the free agency kind of concluded, but there are some things that we did not talk about in our extravaganza last week, which Isaiah and James, I do want to thank you guys for having me on those. I had an absolute blast and definitely do some of those next year. But let's talk about Justin Fields. Justin Fields has now signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers to back up Russell Wilson. And I'm a little surprised specifically that he got traded to specifically that spot. But you look at the Steelers, and I know, Isaiah, you said last week about the Steelers that do not be shocked. I believe that they're going to be winning that division and potentially be on par with teams like the Chiefs and the Bills. Do you think specifically this changes things right now with the Justin Fields signing, or am I just imagining that type of things? I'll go to you first, Isaiah, on that.
My thoughts on the Justin Fields trade is that first off, it really confirms what we've been saying, that the Caleb Williams is going to be a Chicago Bear. If there was any doubt about it, all that doubt was put to rest on Saturday afternoon. My second thought on the Justin Fields trade is for the Steelers. I don't think it really changes my take because he's going to be the backup. He's going to be holding a clipboard. He's not going to be playing. I mean, if he's playing, that means that Russell Wilson probably suffered a catastrophic injury or he's playing so bad that he deserves to get benched. And then, yeah, my take would definitely go, the opposite side and go down the drain for sure. But, for the Steelers, it's a good deal because it's a 6th-round pick, right? It's a 6th-round pick, for a backup quarterback. I mean, yeah, I think that is definitely a good move for Pittsburgh. But I think Russell Wilson is the long-term guy there in Pittsburgh. I think he's going to be there more than 1 or 2 seasons. I think he's going to probably be there 3 to 4 seasons, depending on how well he plays. So this is Russell Wilson's team. This is going to be the Russell Wilson show. So we'll see what happens with him. But for the Bears, I'm kind of shocked that they were only able to get that little for him. Now it really confirms the report that Drew Lock had more of a market than him because Drew Lock got signed, he got paid, he's going to most likely be the Giants starter. But for Justin Fields, I mean, this dude was a top pick. This dude was, a top prospect coming out of college. This dude was regarded very well by a lot of folks. And for him to only fetch a late 6th-round pick, I mean, obviously nobody really wanted him or believes in him. And, I think the problem with Justin Fields is that he holds on to the ball too long. He, he's not able to go through his progressions, go through his reads properly. And that's a major flaw because that's what happened to Colin Kaepernick. And why one of the big reasons why he's out of the league is the fact that he just was never good at reading progressions, never good at throwing the football, never really good at he held on to the football way too much, and that's a big issue because you can't do that in the NFL and want to win. Brock Purdy gets the football out quick. All these top quarterbacks, they get the football out quick, and they have really good decision-making skills, and they're really good at moving in and out of the pocket and reading the progressions, which Justin Fields really struggles on. So I think him going to Pittsburgh, learning from Russell Wilson, I think will definitely help. But in terms of, is he going to ever get a shot to start again? I don't know, sadly, because if he plays the way that he played in Chicago, and yes, a lot of it wasn't his fault, but he showed a lot of major flaws in his game that need to be corrected big time for him to continue to start. But I'm pretty sure James is happy because he was going off on our shows about how he did not want a Justin Fields, Aiden O'Connell,
right,
Gardner Minshew quarterback room. I mean, Ben, think about this. James gave us the most legendary moment of our free agent spectacle when I don't think you were on that time, but when the Gardner Minshew news was announced, this dude went off. He went off, and I really recommend everybody to go back and watch that. He went off about how stupid it was, how embarrassing it was. If Justin Fields was traded by the Bears to the Raiders, which on that day, I think there was rumors about that potentially happening. They were talking. I mean, James would probably do a whole 30-minute rant about how pathetic his Raiders are after that. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy for James that the Raiders didn't get him. But for Justin Fields, it's a good spot for him to go and learn and try to correct his flaws.
All right, James, you got any overall reactions on the Justin Fields, the Steelers signing on the Steelers? I mean, the Steelers gave the Bears a 6th-round conditional.
Let me mention Minshew real quick. I'm trying to warm up to the idea that he's a starter, but I think we all know, after kind of like Derek Carr, after a while, get replaced by Aiden O'Connell. They'll go back and forth. Then we'll go through another quarterback carousel next offseason.
Unless they get one in the draft, which is possible.
But they're not going to trade up. That's the issue. They'll just be stuck with Penix Jr. or Bo Nix, which is fine, but it's not the top. And that's what the Chicago Bears are going to do now. We know that officially with Caleb Williams.
Well, speaking of the Bears, but there's some Bears news we got to talk about as well too.
All right. It's amazing to think how that report came out about Drew Lock has more interest than Fields, and just came out to be true. But I'm trying to have sympathy for Fields, just thinking about hey, he had dealt with a lot in Chicago. It's almost like Kenny Pickett in a way. If you put both of them together, where it's hey, you're sworn in to being franchise saviors, but either front office isn't doing anything for you, the management, the coaching you keep changing coordinators or philosophies, and that just hurt Justin Fields. And it's funny how those two intertwine now with Fields going to Pittsburgh. I was just thinking about this today, and despite what he got traded for, that late 6th-rounder, that's fine. And we know that he has an option year for next season, but that's $25 million guaranteed. Ain't no way the Steelers are going to do that. But at least he could learn something from Russell Wilson. Maybe he can watch film on him or just see what he used to do. And if Russell Wilson is mentally, better in a place like Pittsburgh where you're expected to win, even more than Denver, I think more pressure is on both, but more on Wilson. But I hope this helps Fields in a way where he can come in and just literally learn the game again. And they're going to have a new offensive-minded coach with a good balance, of pass and run. And then hopefully they get better at receiver. And they kind of did throughout free agency, and they traded one away. But that's all I hope for, is that Fields learns from this, and then hopefully he'll be ready for the offseason next year and see where he ends up. But I wasn't shocked because I knew it'd be a 6th-rounder. And again, this just guarantees that the Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams. It would be a shocker if they didn't. Like, imagine if they trade down with Washington or the Patriots and draft Marvin Harrison Jr. or something like that, and then get a quarterback later. That would just shock the hell out of everyone. Which I hope there's I hope there's madness after the madness for the draft. I think that'd be awesome.
And for me, my overall reactions like you guys, Justin Fields, I think this is an overall solid move for them to be a backup, to kind of learn from a quarterback that has history. He's won a Super Bowl. The only thing about both of them guys, which is kind of funny, they both take sacks. So it's just like that's one thing about both of them is just like they get sacked a ton, and it's just like, well, it's just like you can kind of learn from a guy that gets sacked a lot from the other. It's the only downside I see between those two. All right. So obviously one Bear goes out, one Bear comes in, and that's Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen several days ago got traded to the Chicago Bears, and kind of a trade that I don't think anybody was expecting. Now the Chargers obviously had to make some cuts. They did decide to restructure to keep Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, but they released Mike Williams, who's still out there on the market. And now Keenan Allen is on the move. So right now, Justin Herbert, guys, offensively, Austin Eckler left to the Commanders for free agency. Mike Williams got released, and Keenan Allen got traded to the Bears. So Justin Herbert has nobody, which I feel like in the past we've heard this many times before. So how do we feel about that in terms of Justin Herbert? But anyway, I like this for the Bears. I think this is a really good overall playmaker still for the Bears. They didn't have to give out much. And I think that this pretty much says, like Isaiah, you mentioned, Caleb Williams is going to be the Bears quarterback. And I think you look at it right now, Caleb could come in. He has some guys specifically on the outside. Obviously, DJ Moore is a very good weapon for him. You got Keenan Allen. Now, it's really interesting to hear, guys, and I was just looking at this before, James, you were talking. Keenan Allen revealed the two other teams that were interested in him that weren't the Bears. The Texans and the Jets were the other two teams that Keenan Allen, I guess, was looking at. And to me, I'm thinking, I'm like, wow. So you decide to go to the Bears over the Texans, who have a really good young quarterback, and Aaron Rodgers. That's very fascinating. You're obviously going to a team that doesn't know their specifically their quarterback. But regardless of the fact, I like this for the Bears. And I think in terms of the Marvin Harrison, the Bears right now, guys, I think that pretty much takes them out of that mix there. So, all right, Isaiah, I'll go to you. What's your overall reactions on Keenan Allen getting traded to the Bears, and your overall other reactions on the Chargers making some of the cuts and stuff like that?
Caleb Williams is walking into a situation like Bryce Young is, and I think he's going to be what we hoped Bryce Young will be, because now he has two reliable weapons in Keenan Allen and DJ Moore to throw the football to. The Bears have a damn good, they have a decent offensive line. The running back with DeAndre Swift, he's not going to have to do a lot in his rookie year. And with Swift. And I think he's going to be able to be put in a position to really, really succeed. Remember, at USC, they were slinging the football all over the field and doing it a lot with all these great wide receivers that they had there and all those weapons. Now with the Bears, he's not going to miss a beat because you have Keenan Allen, one of the most reliable wide receivers in the NFL. Only issue with him, though, is that he always gets hurt. And also DJ Moore, who's a hell of a receiver, and you could depend on him as well. So I think Caleb Williams, I could see the Bears guys making the playoffs next season, because the Bears, like, they fixed a lot of stuff. The offense, I think, is going to be better. We've seen what a great quarterback can do to a football team in year one. And, like, remember, look at C.J. Stroud. I mean, Houston was not supposed to contend. They got C.J. Stroud. They put weapons around him, and then they end up making the playoffs. So I think Caleb Williams is walking into a very favorable situation. I love it for him. I think he's going to have a really good rookie year. As far as Keenan Allen, I'm surprised that he didn't go to the Jets, because you would have thought, okay, Aaron Rodgers in New York, with him. I mean, he could have been Devontae Adams 2.0 with Aaron Rodgers. That's how deadly and lethal those two would have been. Yeah. Like, it would have been crazy. But and also you would have had Garrett Wilson to take some of the attention off of you as well. So I think it would have been a favorable situation. But it's very interesting that he decided to go to the Bears over the Jets, because I think everybody probably would have picked the New York Jets instead of the Chicago Bears. But it just shows you how irrelevant and pathetic the Jets franchise reputation is right now. And it's definitely going to take a lot of fixing for them to attract key free agents.
All right, James, what do you think of this Keenan Allen to the Bears trade that kind of came out of nowhere?
What did they give up, like a third and fifth rounder for him?
Um,
I don't remember.
I believe it was a fourth, but I'll get back to you on
Yeah,
that.
okay. So they really had to give up much, and it was just a chance to set, Caleb Williams with another possible threat. I'll be honest with you, man. Keenan Allen playing in cold weather, that's going to be interesting. He hasn't really done that because he's been out here. That's the first thing I think of. And then, yeah, his health is always an issue. I mean, I've heard, the few Charger fans that there are out there, I've heard them say, man, just wait till we get Mike Williams and Keenan Allen healthy together at the same time. Just wait. Never happened. But, when Keenan Allen is healthy, I mean, he had 7 touchdowns last year.
Yep.
In the array of playing that he had. So when healthy, yeah, he's a threat, like Isaiah mentioned. But I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, but I think it's a good move by him. I would have loved okay. I think I know the reason why he didn't go to Houston. I want to say because they already have, enough receivers there. And you saw, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, I'm blanking on the other one. Schultz, the tight end there. Mm-hmm. There's another receiver there as well. So I think he felt like, okay, I don't think I'm get as many touches. But that's all I think of. And then with the Jets, with all the things going on with Rodgers, and the instability right there, and the pressure of the media market there, I think that would maybe have something to do with it. It's probably a low-key guy. That's all I could think of. But when I heard those teams, I was kind of shocked that the Steelers never came up, or even San Francisco. Maybe if they made a trade, maybe he would have been one of the names. And even now the Cowboys, I think you can put them in a. Well, they need they need an offensive lineman, but
Yeah.
See what happens with the draft. But I think this is good for Keenan Allen to leave the Chargers, but to go to another question mark team, I think that was a big question mark.
And in terms of Mike Williams, James, where do you think he will get claimed by?
I saw Carolina. I mean, whatever with that, but. I'm gonna look right now, but I swore I saw him also linked.
Yeah, there's a list of teams. So the teams right now
I think
so the teams right now that I saw were the Steelers, the Jets, the Panthers. I think those are the teams right now. Unless I'm missing one. I might
No, that's the 3. So he's visiting them this week, all 3. The most likely one is the Panthers, but I really want to see him with the Steelers. And looking at the fans and everybody on social media, everybody wants him to go to the Steelers. Because remember, they traded Deontay Johnson away. Yep. So I think that would be a good replacement. And we saw Mike Williams, too, out of Clemson, especially when he first started. He's making some great acrobatic catches. And again, he's one of those guys, when healthy, he's great. But I think he would really help the Steelers. I think he should go there. But man, it would show that the Jets they're missing out on a lot of guys. It could be that Rodgers factor. And then for Carolina, it's like, man, you don't really want to go there. You know, they tried to make something happen. You're not sure about the quarterback. You'd rather have a veteran quarterback to throw to and one that can still air it out like Wilson. So hopefully it goes to the Steelers.
All right, Isaiah, what do you think that Mike Williams goes to?
I think he goes to the Jets because Aaron Rodgers needs another wide receiver. He wants another premier guy opposite of Gary Wilson. And, Mike Williams, he's kind of at that stage of his career where, like, he wants to win, and he's been injured so freaking much where you're just like, okay, this might be, who knows, like, how how long more is he going to continue to play? He doesn't really have a lot of athleticism anymore due to the fact that he's always hurt. So maybe he goes to New York short, like 1 year deal, and just to try to reboost his value up while winning. So for me, like I would love to see him in New York. I think it would make a lot of sense for him to go to the Jets.
All right, and a couple other moves that we saw. In terms of some backup quarterbacks, like we mentioned, we talked about Justin Fields, but Kenny Pickett has been traded. He went to the Eagles to back up Jalen Hurts. We got Josh Dobbs, one of Stephen Wayne's favorites from the Vikings last year. He's going to your 49ers, Isaiah, to back up Brock Purdy. That was today, actually. And then we also had somebody else, James, backup. Jimmy G, your old friend Jimmy G, he went over to the Rams to back up Matt Stafford. So what's your overall reactions on those? I mean, I'll go first. I mean, Dobbs, I think, had some promise last year. I think him with San Francisco would be kind of fun, to be honest. Even though I don't think he's going to get any actions. He'd be kind of like that Sam Darnold replacement. And then Jimmy G over with the Rams. He's going to be suspended for a couple games. Then he's going to kind of, be the backup to Stafford. And Stafford obviously has had, as great as Stafford's been, of course, he's been kind of banged up the last couple of years. He's just not as durable as he once was. So, it's a piece there. I obviously I can definitely see him in LA, living the streets for sure. And then Pickett to the Eagles is fascinating because he is obviously played for the Steelers, he's a pick guy, but he's obviously going to the opposite side of the state and backing up Jalen Hurts. And funny enough, he actually had an Eagles jersey when he was younger, so maybe that was a team that he kind of pulled for when he was younger. So I'll ask you in terms of some of the quarterbacks that kind of was on the move, their backups. Any reactions that?
Oh, I didn't notice Isaiah was gone. Okay, yeah. With Jimmy G, yeah, he's gonna back up Stafford, but I doubt he'll get playing time unless he's there. I was just reminded about all the Rams fans, making fun of Raider fans in LA, saying, "Well, God, you have Jimmy G, and he's always hurt, and now they have him." It's just funny how things work out. Yeah, Dobbs is a good backup plan for San Francisco. That's basically all he is for that. I'm hoping he does better, though, and maybe he will. It feels like, again, you could plug anybody into that offense and they could do well, and they would need him if Purdy goes hurt. The other one was, Kenny Pickett. Man, I feel kind of bad for him again. He was out of that, number 20th, the 20th pick out of that 2022 draft. He was slated to be that franchise savior that they really needed, coming out of Pitt in the building. I was hoping that would have worked out, and I was wrong about that, though, that they were going to keep him and start him despite having Russell Wilson. But this isn't like 2015 Russell Wilson. They need a good, solid backup plan, and that's why they got Justin Fields, which is a project himself. But I just feel bad for Kenny Pickett. I doubt he'll get any playing time, because what I hope for Philadelphia is that they don't run Fields up the middle as much, right? You hope that they limit that to a point and that he can air it out more. That's the hope in Philadelphia. But we're just talking about three backup quarterbacks, and they were brand names elsewhere, but a lot of them are now on the clearance aisle.
All right, and Isaiah was mentioning before about the Jets. They did get some protection. Moses, trying to remember that guy that they got from the Ravens. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to remember his name. Morgan Moses. He went over from the Ravens to the Jets. And Tyrone Smith, who I wanted so bad with the Patriots because we definitely need some offensive line help. They paid him, I believe, 1 year, 1 or 2 years for $20 million. I don't understand why the Patriots did not take him on that, but man, for Aaron Rodgers, of course, with obviously the way that the offense line was there last year. And Joe Douglas was saying too that now it pretty much sets that Elijah Vera Tucker could be right at that guard position, not have to kind of go around. Kai Becton's going to be still out there as kind of a free agent left over. So I think this is really good move for the Jets. It really helps solidify the line. Not only bringing one guy in, but two guys in that are pretty big-sized guys that can kind of move around. Tyron Smith, I think, is a slam dunk for that Jets team. And I think that could really help Aaron Rodgers for sure stay upright throughout this season. So the overall moves on the two Jets offensive linemen that they got to get Rodgers protected.
Tyron Smith, it's great, but I'm just worried about his health. It just seems like he wasn't ready to go back-to-back games last season with the Dallas Cowboys, and that was really unfortunate. So out of USC too, that's why I really liked him. And I thought he was going to be a pillar for years for those Cowboy teams, but he just they never won. And now he's dealing with injuries and he's getting older. So I'm really worried about him being that left tackle, protecting, the most valuable asset of that team. There's a lot of pressure on him. That's all I can really say. And hopefully he can just stay healthy so he can prove everybody wrong. And yeah, Morgan Moses, the right tackle, they're trying to correct a wrong with the Jets, and they're doing that really well on the offensive line. So that looks good. He was really good there with the Ravens. I remember he was one of the good guys. But this was a trade I saw. It was like they swapped 4th-round picks. Baltimore will get a comp 6th-round pick with that trade as well for Moses. So maybe they have someone, eyed in the back of the draft. Maybe that's all I can think of. Why would you make this move? But maybe it creates some room for cap space if they have a trade or a decision to make. So this just helps the the Jets, but I don't know how much, though. I think it all depends, again, on Rodgers and his health, and then mainly with Tyron Smith and his health.
All right, and then the other two topics we'll talk about for NFL segment is Marquise Brown is going to go to the Kansas City Chiefs. And my goodness, that I think specifically the rich get richer. And apparently today or the other day, he said that he essentially turned down some offers from teams that were higher offers, but he wanted to go to Kansas City to try to get a Super Bowl ring. So, not surprising. Kind of reminded me of the Patriots days in the back in the day where a lot of guys would come in to, take less to come play with the team that was a dynasty once way back. But Brown, I think, would really help a lot. He's a really explosive guy. He kind of fits that mold too with that team. So what's your thoughts on Marquise Brown, a.k.a. Hollywood, over to Kansas?
Yeah, Hollywood comes to Kansas City. 1 year, worth up to $11 million. The thing you have to think about, he's often injured. He's only 26. But think about this. The last 2 years, he's played with backup quarterbacks, in Arizona before he came back, before Kyler Murray came back. But then Hollywood Brown himself got hurt, so that was unfortunate. I've had a lot of responses, from people saying, "Man, this isn't fair." But think about the Chiefs; they had to move some money around to get this done. Restructure deals, let go of some people on defense, on the offensive line, so they had to get that other receiver. Kadarius Toney
he's still right now trying to get traded. So
who?
Jarius Sneed. He's still potentially a trade target this month.
Yeah, that'd be bad for their defense, but you figure with this move for Hollywood Brown, they're just going to score more and hope they have someone young enough to replace Sneed. But we saw him single-handedly win games for Kansas City last year in that secondary. He was awesome. Hollywood Brown, again, I feel like he has a lot to prove. I think he's been in the league for a little bit. He was a Raven before the Cardinals, and they traded him on draft day a couple of years ago, I believe. This is a great move for him and the Chiefs. This is a win-win. And again, I feel like this was a move DeAndre Hopkins should have done last offseason. And now he's stuck in Tennessee. The reality, I think he feels like he doesn't want to be there. He wishes he would have took that Chiefs deal. They were going to underpay him, but to get that Super Bowl ring, I think would have been better for DeAndre Hopkins, and he would be getting a major deal, I think, if he did that last offseason. But unfortunately, he didn't do that. So yeah, credit to Marquise Brown making a move like this, and it's good for his career. I really think that.
Talk about DeAndre Hopkins of the Titans. There's another guy that went to the Titans this season, Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley went over the Titans essentially in a way where it looked like it was the Jaguars and the Patriots toe to toe, and then boom, we see Calvin Ridley going to the Tennessee Titans. So I think this is obviously just another great weapon for Will Levis, but that kind of went out of nowhere as well too. So your thoughts really quick on?
Yeah, they did re-sign as well Nick Westbrook, Akeem. I can't say his name right, but that was a good move because he was kind of reliable for them. But Calvin Ridley, we both had him going to the Patriots, didn't we? And I thought that would have been a better move, but
Right.
the Titans overpaid for him. There's no doubt about that. $50 million guaranteed on his 4-year, $92 million deal. They're trying to get him the ball, and with D-Hop and him, maybe that'll be something. But all depends on the offensive line and Will Levis. And the fact that they don't have Derrick Henry, they're going to have to go young at that running back position. That's going to be a really, really tough time there, I think. But Ridley is funny, too, because he had a bad start to his season when you really think about it. And then at the end, he started to get better. But I had him for comeback player of the year. I thought he was going to blossom in Jacksonville. There was even hope that he was going to come back to the Jaguars, but it didn't happen. But this is and what's good for the Jags, at least they know him, and he stayed in division, so they know how to frustrate him. So I'm not looking forward to those matchups between the Titans and Jaguars, but it'd be interesting to see those matchups and how the corners react to Ridley now on Tennessee.
All right, and the last two things is trades. The rumors of T. Higgins and Stephon Diggs.
Ugh.
Do you personally feel like that we could potentially see T. Higgins a trade candidate on draft day? Kind of similar to the A.J. Brown, the Eagles several years ago when we actually had a draft show on here and we saw that happen. So, I mean, in terms of like the Patriots right now, of course, we're kind of looking at options, right? And a lot of the rumors are like, well, would you trade Higgins for the 34th over the second pick and the number 34? It's like, I don't know, but like, I think to me he's going to stick around. Stephon Diggs, I think he's probably going to stick around, but I would not be shocked if either one of those guys gets traded at the deadline. So,
man, this is crazy. T. Higgins not happy there. Asked for a trade. The Bengals, they have a bad history of not having players happy. So eventually they end up leaving. That's the feeling I have. And I don't know. I'm thinking, Patriots are there. Hell, I can even see the New York Giants maybe making a move for him. They have the draft picks to do it. Just depends how much they do that. But Cincinnati, depending on where they are in the draft, I don't know if Romaduzzi will land all the way down there for them. But it'd be interesting if they did, because I'd quickly get him and trade Higgins if that was the case. But we don't know right now. It's unlikely, but I think Higgins is more likely to get traded than Diggs, because Diggs, we heard this last year, where he stormed out of the locker room, didn't want to talk to the media and all that, and everybody thought, trade Diva again, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to happen. I know Isaiah wants it just for the chatter about it, if it does happen, but I think he'll stick around another year. They're going to try it again. If things get really bad, then maybe next offseason for Diggs. But I think Higgins is more realistic than Diggs.
All right. James, you ready to talk some college hoops?
Dun,
Let's
dun,
do
dun, 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 dun.
All right. Yes, March Madness, guys, and we usually don't talk much about college basketball on the show, but we're going to talk about it this week, of course, because it's obviously going to be one of the top things to talk about. So, James, I don't know if you've made any brackets so far,
No.
but I make brackets on a constant basis. It's just one of my favorite things to do, specifically during this time of year. Now, obviously, there are some matches to kind of look forward to. We got the first four tomorrow, right? Which of course is going to be over in Dayton. We got 2 days of that specifically. Just really quickly, James, if you want to kind of talk about the audience in terms of some of the matchups that are going to be going on the next couple of days for the first four.
Okay, so in the West bracket, I think it is, Howard and Wagner, both 16 seeds, will go at it. Howard 18 and 16, Wagner 16 and 15. I was trying to remember what I was looking at, but I'm gonna say Howard wins that one. Virginia versus Colorado State. You know, I've been watching the Mountain West a lot out here with San Diego State being around there.
Yep.
They're an okay team, but I don't think they'll be good enough to beat Virginia. I think Virginia is going to be strong there. Then the other two, the other West bracket, you got Montana State against Grambling, 16 seeds. And Grambling getting in finally after all those years. That was a good thing.
Yep.
I think they'll beat Montana State. It's going to be legendary. And then there's a mountain rivalry here in the South bracket with Boise State and Colorado going at it. The Buffaloes playing their last Pac-12 game. Colorado with 2 more wins than Boise State. Man, both teams are gritty as hell. I watched a lot of their games this year, and that's all I could think of. It's going to be a good inside game. Boise State has seemed to have its way against San Diego State this year, so that was really good to see. If you're a Bronco fan, I think Boise State's going to shock everyone in that 10th seed matchup and beat Colorado. What do you think about those first 4 games tomorrow?
Yeah, so for me, I'm gonna pick probably Wagner. They looked really impressive in the NEC. Of course, they play Sacred Heart, who obviously is right down the street from me. And then my others to watch out for, I'm trying to remember the matchup that UVA against Colorado State, you said?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Colorado State. I just have not been a big believer of Virginia all season for some odd reason. I just feel like they just kind of got in because of the committee specifically. Was more favoritism than anything. I mean, obviously I'm a UConn fan, so we only got 3 teams specific from the Big East. I've personally felt that there should have been a couple of other ones, including Providence, who had a couple really good quad wins. They beat Creighton twice. They beat Wisconsin, which was a non-conference game. They should definitely have more of a gripe than anything. And then potentially Seton Hall. Seton Hall is one of the teams that beat UConn this season at their building. So, I mean, obviously that pretty much speaks volumes, at least there. And then St. John's. I mean, Rick Pitino with St. John's this year was amazing. They were probably one of the toughest teams against my Huskies the last twice that they faced, including during the Big East tournament. So, I mean, I just felt like, and even Dan Hurley was saying a couple days ago, like, you know, there should be more of regard to see some of these Big East teams, some extra teams kind of, you know, join for the tournament. But yeah, man. And Isaiah, welcome back here on the program. We're talking some March Madness and college hoops. We don't really talk about much on the network, but of course the March Madness we decided from our last portion of the show we're going to talk about. All right, so let's kind of go through some of the East kind of region guys. So my Connecticut Huskies play on Friday at Barclays against Stetson, which hopefully should be not a hard one. I mean, but anything can happen. You look at Purdue, right? Last year, upset against Farley Dickinson, 1-16 matchup. I mean, it's crazy things have happened. And then you look at it as well too. I mean, just a couple other more things to watch out for, right? That Florida Atlantic game, they're facing Northeastern. A couple other ones, as well. San Diego State against UAB. Auburn's at Yale, playing against Yale, so that should be potentially the one that I'm looking for is upset city, guys. Washington State against Drake. Drake's the 10 seed. Washington State's the 7 seed. I think that Drake, to me, is going to win that game. And then Iowa State against San Diego State. Iowa State just clobbered Houston in the conference tournament there. So that's a team that I'm really, fearing for sure. And then in terms of the West, of course, you got North Carolina. They're going to be taking on the winner of UVA and Colorado State. And then Mississippi State against Michigan State. Do you guys personally feel like Michigan State should have gone in? Because I don't know if Michigan State deserved. I mean, yeah, I think that Tom Izzo there, I can understand it. We'll have to see specifically, right? But I do obviously have my bracket kind of filled out, right? And my Final Four, I'll kind of go with it, obviously, with Isaiah almost having to go. I got UConn because I just feel like they've just kind of been really a team pretty much all year. And that's obviously not even myself being biased. I just think that, yeah, the field is obviously going to be tough for that region. I think Auburn, obviously, if we got to face them in the Elite Eight, that's going to be very, very tough. Gonzaga, I think it's going to be also there. I have them actually facing UConn in the championship. And then I have Houston. And I'm trying to remember. At least this is kind of the bracket that I really look at, like I focus on. I'm trying to remember. I think it was UNC maybe I had. So this is going to be a really fun tournament, guys. I mean, it's obviously fun every single year. Is there any matchups right now, guys, that are like sticking out to you that could be upset city? The one specifically to me I got is what was it? And the South bracket, number 5, Wisconsin, James Madison. I got James Madison upsetting Wisconsin. That's the upset I have. You just, like I mentioned, anything can really happen. So I'll take it to you guys on this overall feel of the whole entire tournament as a whole. So Isaiah, I'll go to you first because I know you got to go in a little bit. Of course, get yourself ready for the spring training trips this week, which I hope that you have a great time with. But go ahead, my friend. What do you think of this tournament this week? And what are some storylines that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait. I think it's going to be an excellent tournament. I think that, I haven't filled out my bracket yet, so I can't wait to do that. I think we're doing a network bracket group on ESPN. So for all those interested, if you want, just message me, and then we'll hit you up with the link, and you guys can go and join it. All of our network members will be a part of it, so we'll see how everybody fares. I know I'm not really that good at these brackets, so my brackets typically get busted in the first round, maybe the first third or the third game. So
you're not the only one, so don't worry.
I can't wait to see how I do this year, but I think for me, like the overall thoughts is that watch out for Florida, watch out for the Gators. Todd Golden has done a fabulous job with that team. He reminds me of Billy Donovan. I mean, that guy is a young coach. He's a bright coach, and he's got a really bright future ahead of him. And I think that the Florida Gators this year were supposed to be rebuilding, but they ended up winning a lot of games. I think they won 23. They lost 10. They went to the SEC tournament. They ended up going all the way to the finals. Unfortunately, one of their players broke his leg in a horrifying accident in that game against Auburn on Sunday. But watch out for the Gators. I really think the Gators will be able to surprise a lot of people in this tournament. And then I would probably say the other thing I'm looking forward to is I want to see how these blue blood teams fare, because a lot of them have not been great recently. Duke, North Carolina, Kansas. I know Kansas won it last couple of years ago, but the blue bloods have not been good as of late. So I definitely am looking forward to seeing how they do this tournament.
Yeah, 100% agree. And Isaiah, thanks for coming on. Like I said, have a great trip this week. Do you have one more thing?
Yeah, I do want to add something about college basketball, which isn't the tournament related. I'm very Ben and James. I'm very disgusted at the University of Michigan for firing Juwan Howard. I mean, I think that's an absolutely terrible move. I think that and I think James and Ben, you guys will probably not believe the extreme that I'm going to go to, but I think that that's the worst move that university has made in its history. I mean, the fact that Jim Harbaugh was a Michigan man, and remember, Jim Harbaugh was struggling in Michigan. I mean, couldn't beat Ohio State. Couldn't. In 2020, he went 2-4. Like 2-4 in college football is basically like winning only 10 games in a college basketball season, going like 10-23. Like it's a failure. So for you to give Jim Harbaugh one more year to try to fix it, and you not to give Juwan Howard another year, I think it's just a disgrace. And I just think that they pulled the plug too early, and Michigan's going to regret it because now, like, people are going to be like, okay, you fired the guy who is a beloved alumni of your school. Why would we want to come here when loyalty really doesn't matter? So I think it's a terrible move for Michigan, and I really don't like the fact that they made that move. And unfortunately, Ben, you probably know where I'm going to go with this, but Juwan Howard's going to be the next head coach of the Lakers. I can promise you that right now. We've been coveting him for like
God.
the last 3 coaching searches. Rob Pelinka played with him. He loves Juwan Howard. If and when Darvin Ham gets let go, I fully anticipate in a couple of days that Juwan Howard will be the next head coach of the Lakers. I really, really do anticipate that. But yeah, man, it was a great show. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to seeing what you guys pick for your bracket. And if Ben and James, you guys want to be part of the MI6 bracket, feel free to message me. And yeah, looking forward. Yeah, and looking forward to Arizona. Can't wait to see all the baseball games that I'm about to watch. And I'll try to do some reports for the network, and maybe, just maybe, I might try to land some interviews with players, coaches, you name it, because they're all in Arizona right now. So I might be able to bump into them while I'm eating out at a restaurant or something like that.
All right, Isaiah, like I said, have the best time over in spring training in Arizona. It's be a lot of fun, and we'll obviously talk, once you get back for sure. All right. Before we conclude for tonight, James, it look like we'll have you on for the remainder of the program. In terms of, like Isaiah mentioned, Blue Bloods, right? I agree with them in this way. I don't think teams, right, like North Carolina, I think will be all right, but Kansas, Kentucky, some of like those type of teams that you kind of feel like in the past are like, yep, those are teams I feel like are going to go deep and stuff like that. They kind of like treaded water in a way, I think, this year in their conference. Calipari, I think the Kentucky team lost a lot more at home than years past. They were a very good home team for so long. Kansas, they're battling injuries right now.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Bill Self, of course, is a household name. Michigan State even was a team that would go deep. Of course, they're right now. They could be balanced, obviously, early on. Purdue, I've had trust issues with the past, too. I just don't feel like they're going to go deep like always. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a UConn fan myself, so I feel like we're kind of in that blue blood group. But you look at kind of the blue blood group before the blue blood group. Sorry. What do you overall feel about that specifically in terms of the blue bloods kind of getting bounced earlier and kind of seeing some teams that we kind of don't see like in years past, they can kind of making that jump this year in their tournament?
It's a blessing, but it's a curse as well, because you can have like last season tournament where you were just stuck with San Diego State, in FAU playing in the Final
Mhm.
Four. I don't think anybody
Right.
wanted that or anybody had that. I was
Yeah.
fine with it because San Diego was happy, so I was fine with that because they finally got validated going to the championship game. But it doesn't draw well, so I think that was the issue. You need the blue bloods in those games. If you can get it done, without cheating or whatever, it's great. You need those you need those players that you hate, like all those Duke players back then. You need that. You need those coaches that you can't stand in the tournament late. and we didn't have that. So I think maybe. Oh, I had Arizona, I think, as Final Four champion last year, and they were out in
Okay.
the first round. And I thought they
Yep.
were
Yep.
those blue bloods, and totally disappointed me. While I was at a cantina, just drunk as hell, and just like realized, oh my god, all those brackets, my bracket was busted that day. All those blue bloods were gone pretty much, or number one seeds, or whatever they were. I was so I said, man, I'll never fill out a bracket again. I might tonight. So yeah, you need those blue bloods. You need them. But it's also good for those universities that usually get pushed aside. So it's a blessing and a curse, I think, for the NCAA.
And my last question for you, James, is, and you could obviously, it's up to you in terms of your opinion. I'm of course gonna be a little bit biased, but do you feel like UConn could repeat this year? Because I think that's a massive question for a lot of people, where they feel like last year. I mean, I think this year's UConn team is potentially even better than last
Yeah.
year's team. That's saying a lot. So, I mean, I'll ask you too. I mean, obviously, it's up to you. I feel like myself, and like I said, I'm going to be a little bit biased here, but I do feel like the ceiling is, of course, championship. But I would be very disappointed if they don't get as far enough as like the Sweet 16 Elite Eight, because I could probably live with them losing to like the Auburn, right, or like somebody like that. But like, I don't know if they lost to like a 16 seed. Yeah, it'd obviously be crazy. Or like, in the Sweet 16, I'll be a little more disappointed, because I feel like that this team, right, has a lot more potential than last year's team. But do you think that they have a chance of repeating?
Yeah, they definitely do. I was looking at their bracket there in the East, and there's some familiar faces there with Florida Atlantic, San Diego State from last year,
Yep.
so that's pretty fun. You have the number 2 seeded Iowa State Hawkeyes, or not Hawkeyes, I'm sorry, the Cyclones. And you mentioned they're probably not to be. I don't know if they're to be trusted. You mentioned there could be some upsets that happen. Maybe Morehead State beats Illinois in that bracket. Yale over Auburn. Maybe, I don't know. Duquesne over BYU, maybe, but I think BYU has enough. That Florida Atlantic Northwestern game looks really good. Yeah, so I think UConn, with their record, they seem more together than last year. I couldn't
I
really get
agree.
a pulse of them until the Big East tournament, and then the actual March Madness tournament, where they just looked like they were better than everybody else. They won every game easily in the tournament, and you just felt like they were the most together, and they had the easiest way to get there. Not the easiest path, but the way that they played the games were so easy. It felt like. So if they could somehow do that again, it's like, hey, remember what we did last year? Let's just do it again this year, no matter who we play.
Right.
So yeah, I think they will, just based on, or they can, based on the upsets that will happen in other brackets too. You mentioned with Kansas, uh, playing Sanford and the injuries they have to Dickerson for the Jayhawks. That's going to be one of my upsets, no doubt about that. I think Stanford is going to beat Kansas. There was another one too that maybe would mess up things. No, I'm not going Houston or Duke losing, but Oregon. They had a great
Yes.
Pac-12 tournament. They got healthy finally. That was the issue all year long. And they just used it at the right time. They're taking on South Carolina, who's really good. I think they'll be one and done, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm looking out for the upsets. That'll definitely help. Like, man, St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon, the West rivalry here in the bracket there. That's going to be a great game. But man, I think, yeah, UConn should win it again. I'm gonna say you don't trust Arizona. They're number 2 seed in that West bracket. I don't think they'll lose to Long Beach State. Long Beach State got in,
Yeah.
but
I mean, they have. Yeah.
no, Arizona. Yeah, they should have. They had almost a better talented team than UConn did last year, but they could never put a game together to win. And that's why I feel like UConn should be able to win again.
All right. Before we get to final thoughts, and like I said, great show tonight. Chardol, hey, Chardol, hope you're doing well. Obviously, it looks like your Giants made some splashes, so congrats on that. Seth, good evening, fellas. Seth, good to see you. Happy March Madness Eve. Yes, of course, we have March Madness officially now here today on the East Coast. So obviously, that's exciting. James Drunk stories, haha. Okay.
Oh, I was at a great bar, but man, all these upsets are happening. I was like, dude, why did I even fill out a bracket? What was the point?
Yeah. He also said, I think UConn repeat, but watch out for probably Auburn. Knock on wood. Heck, if UConn repeats, I'm going to probably go drive to UConn and celebrate. That's what I'd probably do.
Right.
But I'll say though about Connecticut, right? Is we don't have a professional team, right? Like people say like, yo, we don't have like, and obviously Massachusetts has like the Red Sox. New York obviously has like the Yankees and Mets. Connecticut doesn't have their own professional team, but right now specifically our professional team is the Connecticut Huskies because essentially they are taking over right now college basketball in terms of Mets. So like you can essentially consider that as kind of like our pro team right now because the overall population that we have, the people that root for Connecticut Huskies in terms of our state, it's pretty much bar none to it's incredible. And obviously, when they play at MSG, it's basically a home game for us, which is absolutely fun to see. So, like I said, I hope that we can do it this year. The women's I'm a little more hesitant about because they have a lot more injuries, even though they'll have Becker's back, but we'll see about that. Seth also mentioned Alabama. Yeah, Alabama's going to be a really good team. Yeah, they're going to be a team to watch out for the men's. I really like them all year. And he also said about Oregon as a team to pull off upsets or TCU. Yeah, I mean Creighton's a team, man. When Creighton could get hot from the 3-point arc, Creighton is a team that could just flat out shoot. Of course, they beat UConn during the season as well, so we'll see about that. And then he also said, Seth, do you guys think it was fair that Fisher got fired, Juwan? Yeah, I would say so. I know that Isaiah obviously has his own thing, but I think it's fair for sure. I think that his time had to go. All right. With that being said, that's a little over the 2-hour mark here on Kickoff with Kruse. I think that's going to conclude for tonight's show. We got through a decent amount of baseball talk. We talked a little off-season stuff for football. And March Madness, like I mentioned, we got a little bit into some of the bracket stuff that I'll be going to for this week. So if you guys like this show for tonight, like I said, as usual, make sure to follow, like, comment, subscribe to the MS6IM6 Sports Network. Obviously, James, you can follow him on hitting Halos in the Infield, James, of course.
Yeah. Every Thursday in the morning, there will be James Squared, the podcast coming out. Also on Believe as well, if you get that in your area. It'll be on there as well in podcast form. So yeah, that's the logo there, James Squared. Just find out on Halos in the Infield, or just type in James Squared.
And also for me, you guys, you could also follow me on my other network on Empty the Bench Sports Network. I'm also a co-host for their baseball show over there and Hitting for the Cycle with me and Ryan Tui. We always have shows on Thursday mornings on the Eastern Coast around between 9 and 11 a.m. So make sure to tune in for that. We obviously premiere our episodes for that on Fridays. So make sure to tune into that on Empty the Bench Sports Network. I also do some stuff as well, too. We just had a bracketology show on that and had a lot of great stuff on that as well. So that's where you can also find me as well for that. But yeah, that without further ado, James, like I said, final thoughts, good show. Can't wait to see what we have for this week. We got baseball in 2 days, specifically for the real games with the Soul Series. I don't know if I'm going to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning to watch Dodgers Padres, even though it would count. I did watch though the Padres and what was it, the Japanese team at like 11:30 at night the other night, and it's really fun to see Don Orsillo's just bringing back memories, of course, of the Red Sox days. So that was pretty cool. But that's where they're going to be playing the Soul Series over in South Korea. And obviously the March Madness stuff this week. If you're at work specifically during the day, more likely than not, you could have your phone out, watch the games. I used to remember when I was in school, right? Watch kind of the games during classes and stuff. That would be bringing back great memories for that. So got obviously the Madness this week. Basketball for NBA too. We didn't get the chance to talk some NBA, but we'll probably do that for our show. If not the end of this week, probably next week. We'll probably talk some NBA and much more. Obviously, NFL and never sleep. So anything that we'll also talk about, the latest on that, we'll talk about. All right, James, we'll go to you. Any final thoughts that you got for tonight?
We mentioned the tournament, and it's just unfortunate about Greg Gumbel not being there. He's got a family health issue going on. I don't know if he's missing the whole tournament or not. We'll have to see. But it's unfortunate because I was looking forward to seeing him yesterday do the Selection Sunday. He was not there, unfortunately. They explained what was going on. And then this will be the first time without Jim Nantz for a while. He retired after last March Madness. So
that's right, man. Oh, I
will be the lead there. And then, of course, you have the rest. But it's a step up for him. But, it would be weird without those two guys this year. It would be different.
Yeah, it's kind of like Brad Nessler with college football. Of course, we obviously been always accustomed to seeing him. So a lot of the old, of course, is moving on. Very bittersweet, but of course, the memories and stuff will always be with us. So, all right. Like I said, thank you guys for a great show. We'll try to probably do a show like later on this week, if not probably next week. Of course, if Isaiah obviously coming back from his trip. James, I know you're probably going to be busy, and I'm very busy later on this week, of course, with my work as well too. But we'll try to figure something out, if not this week, for sure, the start of next week. And of course, next week is going to be the first full week of a lot of opening day. So within 10 days, coming up, it's going to be really exciting stuff to conclude the month of March. All right, without further ado, thank you guys once again for joining Kicking with Kruse. I'm your host, as always, Ben Kruse. Like I said, make sure to follow on IM6 Network and on I6 on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Of course, you can also follow me on Twitter at BenCruz144, as well as my other show on Empty the Bench Sports Network. All right, without further ado, like I said, thank you guys for joining us for tonight, and we will see you guys. Let me get the outro going. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Oh my God! Big goal to go from the two. Toss sweep one for James White. Cuts it under the right arm. Cuts it upfield. Driving forward. Diving to the goal line. A touchdown and a title for the Patriots. I can't believe it. Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. 45 remaining. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hitting to right. Back at the wall. Tie game. Big Puppy.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Anything possible.